Well, good afternoon and hello to those of you who are listening into this tutorial from GoatCloud Communications. My name is Cliff Rohde, and I am the owner and chief executive goat of GoatCloud. And I'm delighted to be here today talking about some of the things that you need to be thinking about really shoring up your online presence to make sure that people find you online. And if you'll forgive me for one moment, I'm just going to pause. So as I was saying, it's terrifically important these days to be found online. I think every business owner, every organizational lead knows that there's essentially a metaphysical question there about whether or not you actually exist if you do not have an online presence. A few years ago, maybe that wasn't the case. It is certainly the case today. Everybody has an online presence. One of the important differences, though, between a few years ago and now is that because everybody has an online presence, or so many places have an online presence, your competitors do. And so it is increasingly difficult to get found online. And the typical way that people would get found online is through organic search. And I like to make sure that that is not called free. Organic search is when somebody types in a search term or search expression at a search engine such as Google or Bing and gets results. And there are a certain number of paid results, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then there are also a certain number of organic results, which are not paid for, but which the search engines have determined are good results for you, the visitor to the search engine. And so I don't like to call those free, even though if somebody clicks on an organic search result, it doesn't cost the owner of the website anything. It certainly was not free to get yourself into a position where your website can be found online. There's certainly a lot of time and effort that went into it, whether it was your own blood, sweat, and tears or whether you were paying a vendor to do it. You made that happen. And again, that is certainly not a free exercise. But today we're talking about the alternative, which is to get people to come to your website who are actually paying by the click to get there, or actually they're not paying, you are paying by the click to get them there. So we're talking about pay-per-click advertising, and the chief company out there selling pay-per-click advertising is, of course, Google through their Google AdWords program. That's how Google makes most of its money, and boy, do they make a lot of money. When I give presentations, sometimes people will tell me, "Oh, Cliff, I never click on those ads." Well, I'll tell you, somebody is clicking on those ads because Google is making, somewhere between $15 and $20 billion every quarter, and that's a consequence of people clicking on those ads. So the process of ads seems very straightforward. Somebody puts in a search, you've put in an ad into the AdWords program or into the Bing ads program, and there are others out there. By the way, I should mention at the outset that GoatCloud is a Google partner agency. And so what that means is that we have been certified by Google as understanding how the AdWords system works, and we help people with their AdWords programs. Now, there's certainly an incentive for us to do so. We charge for those services, but we also use Bing ads a lot too, because we find those to be a really good alternative to Google. I don't think there's any reason to think that a Bing searcher is somebody who is any less desirable than a Google searcher. There may be fewer of them, which probably results in lower cost per click when it comes to using the Bing ad system. But we use both systems, but we are a Google partner agency. So I was saying that the alternative to organic search is the paid search. And so what happens there, this system, is that someone looks at the search results, they type in their search, they look at the search results, some of which are paid advertising, maybe it's your ad that's there, and somebody clicks on it. When they click on that, then the advertiser, let's say we're using AdWords, the advertiser will then pay a certain amount to Google for that click. The way that cost is, or price is determined, is through a modified bidding system. And it's modified in the sense that it's not simply whoever is willing to pay the most for that keyword click, but it's whoever really is willing to, and I'm not summing it up exactly the way that Google does, but it's the modification is based on relevance. And so if your ad is considered more relevant, which is based on the keyword, the ad copy, and then the landing page that it's going to take somebody to, then your competitor, even if your competitor is willing to spend a little bit more, you still may show up higher in the results than your competitor because your ad is deemed by Google to be highly relevant to the search that was typed into their little search bar. So that process, again, sounds pretty straightforward. It is fairly straightforward, but there really is a lot of strategy that needs to go into an AdWords campaign. And what I wanted to talk about today was some of those strategies that you want to think about. And in particular, I want to talk about some of the ad extensions after talking about some of the basics, really, the basic settings that you would want to look at. And we're going to go ahead and look at an AdWords back-end scenario in just a moment. Before we do that, I did want to let you know that GoatCloud is actually going to be hosting a live event in the Albany area, Albany, New York area on September 28th. It's going to be an opportunity to meet up with some other like-minded folks, businesses who are interested in Google advertising, and it's going to happen right around the lunchtime. That's a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. The video presentation, which is going to be live, people speaking directly from Google HQ about AdWords, the experts, and then there will be an opportunity for question and answer after that. And who said there's never a free lunch? There's going to be a free lunch involved. So look for details on our website. Here is the link to the site. But if you just look on our homepage, you'll see that that save the date information there. You can click on that blog post, and there will be details there. And then also you'll be able to register for it. Now I will say seating is going to be limited to about 10 people or so, so you're going to want to sign up on the sooner end. So without further ado, let's take a look now at AdWords itself. So what I've done here is logged into the back end of the Google AdWords account that I set up for these demonstrative purposes, and we've set up somewhat of a campaign. So generally speaking, what we're going to have here is a campaign, and then within a campaign, we're going to have different ad groups, and that's with the campaign I'm calling the best red sneakers here, and then the ad group is called red sneakers. I might want to call it something else like Ohio ad or Pennsylvania ad, or some way to distinguish it from other ad groups that you're going to do. Now within an ad group, you're going to want to have different ads, and you want to have at least 2, maybe 4, possibly a couple more. Anyway, a way to, you're always trying to set up different ads to allow yourself an opportunity to see which ones are working. I tell you, if there's anything that you want to be doing here, it is making sure that you are always looking at the results of these ads, tweaking them to always make them better, because the better they are, the more bang for the buck that they're going to deliver. And then, of course, you'll have keywords, which are the search expressions that people will want to set up, or that you will want to set up to. This is when you're really trying to get inside the head of somebody who is going to be searching for the type of information that you have, maybe the services or the goods that you have, and so you want to make sure that your ad appears when they're searching for those things. So I was saying I wanted to take a quick look at settings. So if we go into settings of this campaign, we can change the campaign settings. And first off is type. We want to look at the type of settings that are available. And there are different types of campaigns that you can have. And the primary distinction here is between those that are just kind of text ads that are related to search terms, and then what are called display network ads, which are those that will appear, say they can be images that appear on other websites where people have bought into what's called an AdSense program, which shows Google AdWords ads on their website. Classic example is a newspaper website that has advertising from other places. If you click on those ads, you end up getting taken somewhere to a different website, but a lot of times those ads are run through the AdWords network. So if we want to look at the type, it's just simple. We can edit this as often as we like. Right now it's set with search network with display select. But I've decided I want to change this to just be the search network only. And so this is going to be just when somebody goes to the Google website or one of the other Google properties or one of Google's search partners and actually types in a search. And generally speaking, we want to make sure when we choose that we have this set at all features. So we're going to go ahead and say save for that. So that has changed that. And those are the types of networks. And you actually can go back in and change in different places the types of search partners or websites that your ads will appear. Next up is devices. You can choose to bid more or less on an ad by adding in a bid adjustment depending on the type of device that the person is using to view your ad. If you want to, this is really valuable, of course, especially, we do a lot of work with local businesses. Local businesses may want to limit their advertising to just those places where they are doing business. And so you can edit this, and if you want to, you can do an advanced search. The ability to change the advertising is pretty tremendous, or to change the geographic scope of the advertising is very granular. You can enter in all sorts of different search characteristics here. Like, let's say you wanted to search within a radius of the White House. That happens to be the District of Columbia. There's only one address at that particular address. That is the White House. And so what you might do here, though, is do radius targeting and say 20500, and we want to be within 20 miles of that zip code. And we can set that, and then that will be set as one of our searches. Come back here to what we have. Maybe we don't want to do Canada. We can remove that. One kind of nice thing you can do here is, let's say we're in, let's say I am in, I'm going to remove District of Columbia, remove Washington, D.C. We're going to say Albany, New York. Oops, I want to do radius targeting here. I'm going to say Albany, New York, and that's going to come up. New York, we're going to do 50 miles. Let's do a search for that. And we want to add that. Now we can see here that this extends into Vermont over here and Massachusetts over here. But let's say we don't have a license to serve those places. So what we can do here is we can actually add places to exclude. So we can say Massachusetts. Whoops, I'm sorry, I want to come back here to search. Massachusetts. Here's Massachusetts shows up, and I want to exclude that. And you can see that that is going to come out of it. Oh, it looks like we got a little bit of Connecticut too. Vermont, we don't want them. We're going to exclude Vermont. So then that's no longer going to be searched. And you know what? Let's say we have a license in Connecticut. So we're going to go ahead and allow that little sliver of Connecticut. But there are location options here that we want to see too, which is what types of people are we going to target? You can search for people in searching for or have shown an interest in my targeted location. That means that people who are actually physically outside that location will receive those results. Or you can say, you know what, I only want it if a person is in my targeted location. And that is a way that I commonly do it. Remember here, I love Google. Obviously, I'm a partner agency, or GoatCloud is, but they incentivize you to spend your money with them. I may have mentioned before they make plenty of money on their advertising, and there's good reason for that. But whatever the case, you can. The point of the matter is that you can really choose at a pretty significantly granular level who is going to be targeted with these advertisements. So a question may result, though, how does Google know where I am? Well, there are all sorts of ways that they do. They can know based on the Wi-Fi network you're connected to. They can know based on your GPS. They can know roughly based on the IP address that your device is telling the world that you're surfing from. Now, are there ways to kind of spoof this information? Yes, there are, but by and large, most people don't. And so these are really pretty effective ways to target your advertising. Languages we can change. Bid strategy, this is an important one too. So One of the things that I like to do here is make sure to check this. Now, AdWords, the default is that AdWords is going to set my bids for me. Now, that's helpful in the sense that you don't really have to think about it yourself. But on the other hand, AdWords may end up spending a lot of your money that you don't want them to spend. What I will typically do is either I'll manually set my bid for clicks, or better, to my mind, is enabling what's called enhanced cost per click or cost per conversion. But what happens here is that you can't do that unless you have conversion set up for your campaign. A conversion is what you've determined to be a valuable visit. So maybe it's somebody who clicked on a link to call, maybe it's somebody who filled out a form, maybe it's somebody who spent a certain amount of time on your website or purchased something from your website or visited a certain page or a certain number of pages. All those can be particular types of conversions. And so while you may initially set up a campaign without conversions, have conversions in mind, I always encourage people to set up conversions from the get-go to start tracking them so that when the time comes and you're ready to make that switch to that type of ad focus or bid strategy, you can go ahead and do that. Now, also budget, moving on, budget is something to consider, right? People always say, oh my God, how am I ever going to control, how much I'm spending? Well, you control that very much by setting up a daily budget. And Google can help you to understand what a good budget would be. Again, they always kind of incentivize you to spend more than you might otherwise, but they know how much these ads cost. You need to do research on that, or your vendor needs to do research on how much typical ads cost, and consequently how many ads you want in a day, because you have a target in mind of how many ads you want, or how many clicks you want, how much you want to spend on a daily basis. And generally what I will do is help people establish a monthly idea of what they want to spend, and then we'll break that down into a daily budget. And Google actually, on a 30-day rolling basis, I think, or 30.04 days or something like that, will have you spend within that range of your daily budget. So they really are pretty good at making sure that you stay very close to your budget. And then, there's all sorts of other advanced settings, which I'm not going to get into right now because I really wanted to talk about extensions some. But you can set start dates, so you can do all sorts of stuff, exclude things, include things. It's just, the level of granularity is pretty tremendous. But what I wanted to do was come down here to this campaign, and I wanted to take a look at extensions. And there are a couple in particular that I wanted you to think about. One is site link extensions. Now, this dummy campaign is not really linked to any particular website. Maybe I'll do that for the future so we can really get a sense of this. But what a site link extension is an ability to add additional information to your website that will be a link to a different page on your website. So it's not necessarily, it's not going to be the target or destination URL for your campaign, but it's another helpful link on your site. And it's a great way to get people to come to, again, it should be a page that you want people to go to, and it can be another type of landing page style page where you're trying to get somebody to do something. And many of your pages should be trying to do this anyway, but it's not exactly the campaign's what's called the destination URL. And that's good because you can add multiple of them, and you get a much better response to your ads when you add these site link extensions. Now, just a word on landing pages. A very common mistake is that for an ad campaign, especially smaller businesses who are not so familiar with advertising, will have people go as a destination URL to the home page of the website. Most often, that is not a good idea. You want them to go to a specialized landing page where you're really trying to convert them, make them do something. With one or more, probably one is best, call to action to really get them to take the activity, again, whatever it may be that you want them to do. The home page is problematic because a lot of times people can get lost there. They might have, used a keyword, you chose that keyword carefully, you wrote some really compelling ad copy so that when they typed in the search, they needed that help, they saw your ad, it answers their question, they click on it, and then they get to your homepage and they get lost and they forgot why they clicked on it in the first place and they just leave. Much better is to have that landing page answer that question really of, why did I click on this ad? How is this going to help me right now with the question I have, with what I'm searching for online? So site links, again, even though they take you to a different page, that page can be a worthwhile page, and it's just additional helpful information, and you get more engagement with ads that way. Another one that's really important is location extension. Now, I don't have this dummy account set up with any particular location, but it's a way to, especially for mobile visitors or mobile searchers who most often have localized or local intent with their searches, to understand precisely where you are. And again, this is adding more information to the ad itself about where you are, or in this case, about where you are. It's helpful information for the person. And especially, I would think this would be of value for retail places which have a physical presence in a very different or a very definite geographic location. Other places, if you have a more national focus, I don't know that location matters quite as much if you're operating out of one spot, but definitely for locals. Another terrifically useful extension is a call extension. And this is a way to add phone numbers to your ad. A lot of times people may want to call rather than visit your ad. They want an answer right away. And so give them that opportunity to call. I mean, of course, you want to make sure that if you have a call extension available, that there is someone who's going to, or something that is going to attend to that call. You don't want people to call at a time when they're just going to get a phone that's ringing, on into the future. So make sure you deploy that. I mean, all of these extensions wisely, but call extensions are great in that way. Another, especially like if you're an agency or an organization and you think you do better on the phone maybe than you do online with getting conversions and convincing people to use your services or buy your goods, get them to give you a call and sell it to them that way. The call extensions also can be linked to a tracking phone number. You can actually set up with Google a tracking phone number so that you can kind of record or capture data about what happens with those particular phone calls. It's hard sometimes to know, and this is all data that you would want to track, what is happening with a phone call. Also, where did that phone call come from? Did it come from somebody clicking on an ad? Did it come from something else? And it's hard to do that with just a regular phone number. But at least you can track some of this data. You can certainly track data within Google AdWords about how many people clicked on your phone number if you have it listed with a call extension. Two more that I wanted to focus on. One is review extensions. So if you're a goods or services provider and you have a lot of great reviews out there, well, you should put some of these reviews in your ads. Greatest thing since sliced bread, coming from Yelp or Google or wherever you get that positive review. You need to make sure that they're all correct and they're actual reviews, the positive reviews that you've gotten. But if you do that, it's an additional sales piece to let people know that people love what it is you do. And finally, another one is great, which are just call-out extensions. Call-out extensions offer you the opportunity to provide another additional layer of information into your ad that can appear. Now, by the way, with all these extensions, Google decides when they are going to appear or not appear, and they don't always appear all the time, or no particular ones appear all the time. As a general rule of thumb with these different extensions, like site links, call-out extensions, review extensions, you want to have at least 3 or 4 of those individual extensions that Google can choose from to put them up. And Google does try to display those that are working better than others, and so really take advantage of these. You'll do much better by doing so. But so with call-out extensions, it's just simple words. Free shipping, 20% off today only. It can be a variety of things, whatever makes sense for your ad campaign. But if you use those two, it is another way to engage with the people who are looking at your ads, and another way to set yourself apart from other people who are advertising. And, just take a look at the ads. Do a search for the types of things that people who need your goods or services would search for to find them, and see what your competitors are doing. Look through those ads. See who you think, who you think is doing what well, and what ads are making you more inclined to want to click through to them. Chances are it's going to be those where there's additional information there. Now, all of this, again, is just like completely scraping the surface. And you really do need to use a lot of thought to put together a successful ad campaign. You need to review the data on those ad campaigns and find out what's working and what's not, and stop doing what's not working and improve what is working and try to make it better all the time. The more you do that, the more success you're going to have with online advertising. It really does go hand in hand, to my mind, with what you're doing with respect to organic search as well, because it can be very compelling to a visitor to a search engine when they see your results as an ad and as organic search. It kind of gives additional credibility to you. And so, do all that stuff, and you should have some success. Now, again, if any of you are in the Albany, New York area, save the date for September 28th. 10 folks are going to be able to come join us, listen to the experts from Google talk about the successful ways to manage campaigns, and then we'll have a Q&A afterwards. And Google inevitably sends me some stuff that I can give out to people, so there'll be modest little things of swag as well. So we hope you can join us there, and we thank you very much for listening today. Again, this is Cliff Rohde of GoatCloud Communications, GoatCloud.com, and if we can be of any help to you as you try to navigate either Google AdWords or Bing Ads or other aspects of being online, we would be delighted to help. So thanks so much, and have a great day, everybody.